Hello, welcome back to another episode of Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. And today I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that's sports card influencers and why the sports card hobby is so toxic, I guess I should say. And really unfair to many of the hobbyists who are involved. And why is that? Well, what is it about sports cards where the wealthiest person gets to have the most fame? Think about that. You can go into other hobbies, sports, whatever, and you can work at it and you can get better and you can improve, and you don't need to be the wealthiest person in the world. I'm just saying. I mean, as a painter, as an artist, or as someone who used to go fishing all the time or hunting, you don't have to spend a lot of money to be highly ranked in those hobbies. You know what I mean? I mean, you can be really good at it and you don't have to be a millionaire. But unfortunately, with the sports card hobby, it's all about the money. And don't pretend it's not. I mean, when I look at this hobby, I can understand why it goes through the growing pains that it does. A lot of people will say, well, this is the best the hobby's ever been in. I would argue that it's not. I'd say the best the hobby's ever been in was during the COVID pandemic. And it just keeps free falling, and you have a lot of people pretending that it's not. And to me, when I think of, well, who gets to talk about the hobby the most? Well, wealthy people do. This guy, Jeff Wilson. I mean, look at this video. 45,000 views, one day ago. 45,000 views? I mean, you have to ask yourself, is he buying views? Because you can buy views. If you're wealthy, you may as well. And so that's the thing about this hobby is it really tends to bend the knee to whoever's the wealthiest, even if they're not the best person in the hobby, like, say, Jeff Wilson. I mean, if we were all playing basketball in the hobby, and we're all, playing games, shooting dunks, whatever. Do you think that Jeff Wilson would be the best person in the hobby? Think about it. Yeah, he has a lot of money, but if you watch his stuff, he's like an amateur. I mean, he's not very bright overall. And that's because he's fairly new to the hobby. If he wants to piss all his money away in the hobby, he has the money to piss away, and he has the viewers, and he has YouTube, giving them the landing spot for sports cards. I mean, if you type in sports cards under YouTube, you're going to get what? Sky B cards, Chasing Cardboard, If Sports Cards, and of course, Sports Card Investor. He's usually up there, Card Collector too. These are the most wealthy people that you can really watch on YouTube. Justin Gamble. I mean, think about it. This guy's like a scam artist. And that's what I mean about this hobby is I think it irritates a lot of people about the hobby because you can be really good at it. You can have a lot of knowledge about cards, but if you don't have a lot of money, you're not going to get any sort of traction in this hobby at all. You're going to get laughed out, which is unfortunate because it's just a hobby. I mean, here we have Sports Card Dad, which I like Sports Card Dad, but here he is talking about irrelevant card influencers, likely someone like me. And why am I irrelevant? Well, I wasn't born into a wealthy family. I had to struggle, for everything I've earned for the most part. And when you're making minimum wage, you don't get to have all the nice things like, say, sports card investor, who I have a sense comes from a wealthy family. I mean, I don't think he earned any of this. I couldn't imagine him working a minimum wage job, or, just saving what he can to buy a few packs of cards that people will laugh at. I can't imagine that. And that's really the downfall of this hobby, is they're not going to say that to you. These other channels will never come out and say what's the driver of the hobby, what's going to make you the best person in the hobby. And really, you have to be a wealthy person to get into it. It'd be like a Warren Buffett. I mean, imagine if Warren Buffett came to the hobby. Everything would be Warren Buffett on YouTube. Everybody would be watching Warren Buffett. Because why? He's a rich guy. So everyone likes to bend the knee to the rich guys in the sports card hobby. This guy especially, Jeff Wilson. And you can do it. I never will. I will never bend the knee to him or any of these other people, ever. I don't even watch their stuff. I don't care. I sit and watch my UFO alien stuff over all this sports card nonsense. I make my shows. I enjoy making my shows, but I don't really care about Jeff Wilson, sports card investor. I've dealt with people like him my whole life. I'm almost half a century old, I mean, has he had a tough life? I don't think he has. I think he's just another spoiled American who's got everything he wanted out of life, and everyone bends the knee to him because he has a lot of money. Just saying. Just saying it. Now, as far as hobbies go, you have to ask yourself about these other hobbies. I just pulled up hobbies on YouTube. But here's the thing. Learning, dance, writing, knitting, crochet, videos, photography, exercise, painting. We have 42 more. Let's see what else we have here. Cooking, creative writing, archery. You don't have to be wealthy to get really good and become an expert in these hobbies. That's just it. The thing about sports cards is, no matter how hard you work at it, if you're not wealthy, you're not going to be that person. You're not going to be the number one. Let's say that I decided to go and focus more on woodworking. Well, I've done woodworking. You can get into woodworking. It doesn't cost you a fortune like sports cards. You don't have to sit there and gamble your money away like sports cards, And you want to run a sports card show on YouTube? Oh, well, time to piss away your money and start ripping boxes of nonsense that you're not really pulling anything out of. Unless you're like a big breaker like Stryker who can afford to do it day in and day out, with his backers, whatever. But for the most part, sports cards aren't about skills. If it was about skills, you would not see Jeff Wilson, as a landing spot for sports cards on YouTube. He has the money, and YouTube bends the knee to him and says, here you go. You have the money. You get to have the landing spot. And a lot of these other guys too. But I have a sense they didn't work for it. Do you really think these guys worked for it? A lot of these guys, you dig into them, Justin Gamble, a lot of them, they just come from wealthy families. I don't see anything special about that. I don't. I mean, anyone could do it. Anyone can get born into a wealthy family and do what they're doing. I'm just saying. Does it take a lot of skill to do what they're doing? No, not really, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of skill to piss away a lot of money in a hobby that likes to bend the knee to whoever has the most, most dough, unfortunately. And we kind of had the high point there during the COVID pandemic, and I'm starting to see a lot of people leaving the hobby. I understand why. I mean, like I said, I mean, if you're younger, why would you devote so much money and time in sports cards when you could maybe devote all that money and time in learning a sport? Hell, I mean, you could push into basketball if you want to, rather than putting all that money into sports cards. And you're going to be that guy, possibly. Why? You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to come from a wealthy family to be great at basketball. That's just the way it is. Or a painter, for instance. I look at my artwork and it's just like, I like to see Jeff Wilson produce artwork like this, my oils, whatever. He probably couldn't do it. Why? He's just some dude from a wealthy family, man. It doesn't take a lot of skills. And so, unfortunately for sports cards and collecting, it really is all about the money. And if you're lying to yourself about that, you are just lying to yourself. I mean, anyone can come in this hobby with a ton of money, and they're going to be the landing spot for sports cards, whether they just picked up a sports card yesterday or the day before. Think about that. So when I sit there and I get to deal with what I get to deal with my channel, and my reselling on eBay and this and that, and having to earn a lot of what I've had to earn, and to know that the hobby is all about money. Well, I don't know what to say. You have to ask yourself, if you're not a wealthy person, is this hobby for you? I've sat there and asked myself that a lot of times. That's why I'm kind of in and out of the hobby, from the time I was, 10 years old, 9 years old, just in and out, here and there, consistently collecting for the most part, but I can't afford to be a consistent collector in this market, especially now. I even struggled in the 90s to buy the cards I was buying, It seemed kind of high price for the minimum wage I was earning. But to wealthy guys like these big sports card influencers who like to tell people that they're not sports card influencers, likely because they're not wealthy and don't have enough backing and don't have enough views. Well, it is what it is. That's the way the hobby is, I have another channel where I just go over like different stuff, UFOs, aliens, stuff like that. I rather do that than just focus on sports cards. Why? Because sports cards are all about bending to the knee to whoever is the wealthiest. And it's not a skill-driven market. Think about it. Artwork. Artwork is fairly skill-driven. Not as much as it used to be. I mean, the banana taped to a wall, that's to me is the biggest downfall of art, the art world. And people paying a lot of money for that ridiculous, anyone can do that thing. That's really one of the downfalls of art, or stuff like that, But you can become an artist. You can go buy paint. You can go buy canvases at a fraction of the sports card hobby, what they expect you to do, for them to bend the knee to you, You have to have lots of money. And that's what the sports card hobby only cares about. And I see other great sports card shows. They don't get the views that the big wealthy acolytes in our hobby will get. And that's just the nature of the hobby. You cannot get those views. You will not be the number one sports card hobbyist. Why? Because the biggest collectors are the people with the biggest money. And if you're not dealing with that fact, well, you're not dealing with the hobby. I mean, wealthy people, they can make mistakes in the hobby. They can buy the wealthiest, most expensive card imaginable. And they can screw it up. It doesn't matter to them. They'll still be the hobby hero. Why? Because it's all about the money. It's all about the bank. So anyway, I'm just putting that out there so you don't forget that, about this hobby. It's not like other hobbies. This hobby is all about wealthy people. And the wealthiest people get the most out of it. Don't pretend they don't. Anyway, something to think about. Something that the hobby likes to put people in their place. I'm constantly seeing it. I'm constantly going, I'd probably be better off just moving on. Back to doing other stuff, maybe look at sports cards 10 years from now, see if the hobby's changed at all. 5 years from now, whatever, I doubt it will, but unfortunately, that's just the nature of sports cards collecting, It's all about the Benjamins. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode. I know I'm the most popular sports card influencer on YouTube. Wow. But then again, maybe I don't want to be, maybe I don't want to be the millionaire that's just pissing away all my money for a few views, to be rated number one. Anyway, I'm out of here. Bye.